Hello there everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another Chaos Roundup for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now we have two events for you this week. We have Fran's Lost Chapter and we have ExDeath's main event, which of course will feature Gilgamesh. So those of you that have followed me for the last few weeks know that I had fully planned to purple my Gilgamesh so that I could take him through as many events as I could. Well, I definitely did do that, even though I actually fluffed my ExDeath Chaos run on stream, which was a little bit embarrassing, but I came off the stream and then did it first time, which was like, oh great, typical. So if there's something that you're interested in and would like to see, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch and Discord. On Twitch we've been playing loads of Opera Omnia, War of the Visions, Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy VII Remake and all sorts of fun stuff, so definitely come and follow me on there if you want to come and interact with me, like, you know, in live time as opposed to through videos. And of course don't forget to check out my Patreon page as well, where you can get a bespoke title card made just for you that ties you directly into the videos to be shown at the end of every single video. And of course I also shout out a single patron from the collection of patrons that I do have, so that I can show my personal thanks and appreciation for those people, and this time around that person is going to be Jealous, who's been around for a little while now, so thank you ever so much for your support, it is massively appreciated. And lastly, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators for Opera Omnia, as all of us appreciate your likes, subscribes, follows, all that good stuff just as much as I do. So we're going to start the video off by talking about Fran's Lost Chapter Chaos. Now being honest, this Lost Chapter actually isn't quite as difficult as a lot of Chaos missions that are out there and available. Basically, because the Lost Chapters in general are slightly easier than character events or raids or anything like that, it's notable to say that you can go back to these events later because they are permanent fixtures in the game. So if you're a newer player and you're struggling to finish Lost Chapter Chaoses, don't panic quite so much because you can go back to them later. The only things that you'll miss out on are a few tickets and a few resources. You can still get books and ingots from these even later down the line. So with this event, I was able to bring units that I just really enjoy in general and ones that I really love to play as, and those of you who follow me for a little while know that Yuri, Paladin, Cecil and Edge, who are the members of this particular party, are all characters that I went very much out of my way to acquire because I just love their kits, I love everything about the way they play. I think that their synergies are really good as well, particularly Yuri and Cecil, because Cecil can give Holy Resist down or Holy Imperil straight away, turn 1, and that makes it so that Yuri doesn't have to build up to his EX in order to be able to take advantage of his own Holy Imperil. He can just go off from Cecil's. And then because Yuri and Cecil both have very strong HP regens, they both battery, Cecil in particular batteries very well, and they have AoE attacks. They work very well together. And then Edge can work in pretty much any team composition, to be honest. Edge is one of my favourite characters to come out of these last few months. He's just useful at all times. He is a tank that isn't a tank. His evasion rate ups and Blitz Mirage and Smokescreen, they, like, the amount of control you have over the fight just by having Edge in your party is magnificent. And with the Lich and the First Wave can actually be kind of annoying, particularly if it inflicts its curse debuff on you just before the fight ends. Luckily, he missed me when he tried to do that in this particular fight, but if he gets you with it, then it's going to reduce your max HP for a while for the next few turns, and that going into the next fight is not ideal. But he's not particularly difficult, he's just a bit of an HP sponge. As long as you're careful, you can get around him quite easily. We've fought Liches loads of times in the game at this point. But then the Chimeras are the main bosses of the event, or the Ankh Beasts as they're known. Their only real gimmick is the fact that when they fly up and they fly down, their movesets change. The only moves that you really need to be very cautious of are its Mazer Beam, which will break your character even if it misses. It is guaranteed to break your character no matter what the situation. Even if Mirage is up from Edge, even if they're locked on and you've got Zack's shields up, he's still going to break it. Just be very cautious of the order, the turn order that's present. Make sure that you're able to kind of counteract these things and just make sure you're prepared for any attacks they have. They do also have a lot of AoE bravery attacks, which can get quite scary if you let them, but I used Edge to make sure that those never affected me too badly. I made sure that I brought in Cecil's battery capabilities to make sure that I didn't get broken from those, because once their bravery does rack up very heavily, you do have to be cautious. But honestly, just having a steady flow of damage from Yuri, Cecil and Edge all together, because Yuri's AoE 100% damage was very helpful here. There was nothing hugely terrifying. There was a point near the end of the fight where they got my health down very low, but because, like I said earlier, there's so much health to be gained from both Cecil and by Yuri that it didn't prove to be too much of a problem. I chose to bring Aranea as a friend unit here because she's just that good for duo fights that aren't particularly like resistant to her. If anything, Aranea is perfect for this fight because they're actually weak to ranged while they're raised up in the air. So if you are lucky enough to get Fran's EX, obviously Fran being a synergy character will work very well here. But with the enemies being weak to Holy Thunder and ranged, there's so many characters that you can bring along to this. Beatrix would be a really strong option as well if you wanted to take advantage of her HP protection. You've also got Ashe, who's synergy, and she has access to her paralysis very, very frequently. Agrius would be useful for this. There's so many different characters that you could use. Emperor with debuffs and defense downs and pushing off their buffs. I mean, one thing that you might want to bear in mind is that even though the Cosmos variant of this fight, they put up a lot of framed buffs, in the Chaos version they actually don't. So bringing a Dispel character isn't quite so relevant as it was in the Cosmos one when we got it the first time around. This time you don't have to worry so much about it. Just bringing strong characters in general should get you through this fight without much problems. If you wanted to make this fight really easy for yourself and really push through it, then bringing characters along with delay, rebreak, any mechanics like that are really strong, like free turns, things like that will be really, really useful. So bringing characters along like Aranea, like I said, take advantage of that ranged weakness because she will make use of it. Vayne will work very well here because as much as he's generally considered to be a single target user, Joesephyr is still an AoE attack. He's that strong that he will happily take on 2 enemies at once. Leo is the same. He's very much geared towards single target, but it doesn't mean he's useless in a multiple target fight. Artemisia equally will do extremely well here because, as long as you've got a character to buff her attack up, because Artemisia is starting to get to a point where her damage is a little bit low per turn, but that's easily fixed by just sticking Rosa next to her. Stick Rosa next to Artemisia and Aranea, or Vayne and Aranea, or Artemisia and Vayne, or Leo and one of the others, and honestly, you'll just deal so much damage and you'll have all the support capabilities that you need in order to get through this fight. And you could almost cheese it, even though there's multiple enemies. Just delay them. You would be able to finish this whole fight with a max score and no issues if you bring in characters like that. One thing I will say about Fran's Lost Chapter mission, and to a lesser extent ExDeath's character mission as well, is while Fran's mission is fairly simple, it's long. These guys have a lot of health. So the video that you can see on my left here is slightly faster than usual, but even with the slightly faster video than usual, I still have to leave a little bit at the end of this without me speaking because otherwise it's going to be a massively long video. And it took me 23 minutes, I think, to accomplish this particular Chaos mission, so do forgive me if there's a little bit of time without me speaking. So going into ExDeath's event, you can see here the team that I've used includes Gilgamesh. Now, for those of you that weren't sure, as I said at the beginning of the video, my Twitch audience really wanted me to purple Gilgamesh, so I set it as a goal and it was met. So I am a man of my word. So I did indeed purple Gilgamesh in place of Galoof. Now, a lot of you guys I know will kind of read me to filth and go, what are you doing? But I want to show appreciation for the people that did so, and not only that, but I wanted to showcase that a character like Gilgamesh actually can still clear a lot of content being purpled in place of some of the others. I don't have access to a purple Galoof, but that's fine. I have access to other characters that can take his place. but Gilgamesh actually does do an awful lot of damage in this particular fight. Yes, he is a synergy character, but the crit damage that he deals is extremely heavy. Hurricane is actually a pretty strong attack. Like, it will do 99999 and then 50k to the other party, to the other enemy party members, so it is actually going to hit very hard. Mad Dance, Wild Dance is actually pretty solid as well, and even Deathclaw, while it's nothing particularly special, it did actually proc paralysis once or twice in this fight, so I actually did appreciate it. It's not a high chance or anything, but when you're just trying to build the gauge for Hurricane, because it is a very strong attack, then it does the job. But not only that, but his initial bravery being buffed by some of the other party members in this particular composition, namely Penelo, makes it so that the regen he gets from his main mensch sort of buff from his EX actually buffs his bravery to a point where his low hit count actually isn't quite as big of a problem as it could be. But I noticed that with this fight, because the enemies can raise bravery damage reduction, Gilgamesh was still hitting for 7 to 10k per hit, even through that damage barrier, and that's hitting hard at that point. But I chose to take Zack, Penelo, and Gilgamesh, having tried a couple of other party compositions on stream and them not work out very well, and this party actually worked really, really well. Because you've got Penelo giving initial bravery to both Zack and Gilgamesh, they both benefit from it very greatly, but in different ways. Zack's shields get much stronger if his initial bravery is higher, and Gilgamesh does a lot more damage if his initial bravery is higher. So honestly, why I didn't pick these three to begin with, I don't know. I tried Sarah, but thinking like, oh, you know, the debuffs might work and things like that, but while I wanted to kind of accumulate just enough debuffs that I could just push their damage barriers off, but given that they're immune to poison, it didn't work out quite as well as I would have hoped, though the Goddess Arrow from Ultima Arrow, her EX, actually did help to some extent, and the only reason I really failed that attempt is because I messed up. And I killed one of the enemies too quickly. Definitely don't do that, because then you're going to be hitting ones on the other enemy for the rest of the fight, and you're just not going to finish the job. These two definitely need to be beaten at the same time. You've also got aggressive turtles at the beginning, but I didn't mention them very much because honestly they don't pose any threat whatsoever. They're just there for you to build up your EX gauge, basically. They don't do very much damage. Even when they retreat, they still take a heavy amount of damage. They're not really worth mentioning, apart from the fact that the first wave, I'm pretty sure, is intended just to build the EX gauges ready for the second one. With Penelo as well, Intercession is a fantastic attack. I mean, my Penelo only has her base EX in one ingot, so she isn't purpled. So her Intercession was dealing like 52k, which it's still really useful. No, it's not capping out or anything, but it's still got the job done. It still reduced bravery to 0 when they got a little bit heavy-handed. And it really did save me on multiple occasions. And then because of regen waltz and Zack's ability to heal himself while locking the other two, I found that I was able to use Zack to just beat through the counter state, and it actually worked out okay. I couldn't do it repeatedly because he'd still take some damage from it, like about 4,000 HP, but I found that just breaking through it helped a lot into just getting around the break state. And then because Gilgamesh's Wild Dance is a single target brave attack with splash damage, I could just avoid that enemy altogether and just kind of focus down the one that wasn't in counter state. And then making sure that Penelo could reduce any damage that was taken, make sure that the bravery was high by timing the different dances that she's got, like using regen waltz when I didn't want her to take a turn immediately after, or using haste rumba when I wanted to build up her EX gauge quickly so that I could use intercession, bring the fight back down to the level I wanted it to be at before I then continued fighting. Honestly, these three are a team I would consider taking to a lot of content because they actually fulfill a lot of roles very, very well. Gilgamesh's damage is very, very high, but only if you have batteries and initial bravery sort of buffs, things like that. So Penelo is like his best friend. Alternatively to Penelo, arguably an even better friend for Gilgamesh, if you do plan to use him, would be Selfie. Selfie does a huge initial bravery buff alongside Wall, which actually compounds really well with the attack down aura that Gilgamesh has. But not only that, but by having aura, you're literally just alternating between Hurricane and Wild Dance just over and over and over again. And like, because Hurricane regenerates uses of Wild Dance, you can just go on forever. So a team of Gilgamesh, Leo, and Selfie would be absolutely astronomical. despite the fact that Gilgamesh is considered to be a very weak character, because he has delay, as does Leo. They all have auras. You get HP regen from Leo, you get the initial bravery, and you get extra HP regen from Selfie and Drain and Aura. Those three in a party would work very well. The only reason that I didn't take that is because that's very much a single target focused composition, and my Selfie doesn't have 3 ingots, unfortunately, so I couldn't really justify bringing Selfie. So that's something that you could consider, but honestly, while I struggled with a couple of fights at the beginning with this, I tried using Emperor, though he is actually a very good shot for this event, because if the enemy triggers his traps during their turn, even through the counter state, they don't trigger the counter, because as long as you're not the thing that breaks them, if they break themselves, then Emperor can do it pretty damn well. But even better than Emperor would be Vanille, another character that I have, but I don't have the ingots to give her. She not only has that kind of trap debuff where it'll trigger straight off the bat after they've attacked and it'll break them, then you also get the Dispel alongside her, which will also work fantastically, and she batteries at the same time, and she reduces her defenses. She's actually a really strong character for this particular event. The other character I would consider would be Faris, for very much the same reasons as Vanille. She has the Dispel, she has debuffs, she also has a trap-based effect in Thunderstorm, so when Sildra goes off, then that will hopefully break things through the counter state, and honestly, Faris would be a fantastic character to bring to this as well. There's actually a lot of team compositions that you can use for this particular event. Obviously, I chose to use Gilgamesh for my own reasons, but ExDeath is obviously going to be amazing for his own event. But I do want to give a quick shout out to SoulDFFOO, who uploaded a fantastic video that I will leave in the link in the description box below, who cleared ExDeath's Chaos without dealing bravery damage whatsoever using ExDeath, Selfie, and Penelo. So there was no brave damage in this run whatsoever. It was just using the HP poison, Selfie's drains, things like that, just HP pluses, and it was actually an absolute joy to watch. So I very much encourage you to have a look at that video as well. Not only that, but there's a lot of characters that you can use for this that are generically very powerful. If you're going to use characters like Artemisia or Aranea, they are obviously going to be very strong for this event, but do be cautious of that counter state that you can bring somebody else that will help mitigate that problem, because even if you use lock on those characters through things like Warrior of Light or Zack, then they're still going to be able to target the character that broke them during their counter state. So as long as you're careful with things like that, then you can take some of the really overpowered characters, your Ultimisias, Emperors, your Araneas, things like that. They will still do very well. One interesting use that I used was actually Agrius, because if they go into their counter state and Agrius then guarantees to paralyze them, or Cloud for that matter, they're not going to be able to respond to you. So using Agrius alongside some of the other characters, like as your way of protecting yourself from the counters, actually works really quite well. The last team composition I'm going to mention here is another video that I found whilst having a look for myself for the ExDeath Chaos, and it's actually by a user named Vane Novus, who used Fran, Warrior of Light, and Vincent to create a 100% attack down team. So that basically their debuffs were so heavy that they just couldn't deal damage almost at all, and it's actually a very entertaining run. It stacks the debuffs from Vincent's attack down from his live wire shot, his EX from Nightmare Shot, Fran's Viera's Punishment, and honestly, it's an absolute joy to watch. And Fran and Vincent are actually a really nice duo together anyway, because Fran can make it so that they've got range resist down on top of the Imperil from Vincent. They actually just complement each other really very well. So if you have a way of enchanting them all with either fire or lightning down the road, if you've got Lulu alongside them, then honestly these two are going to do so much damage. Vincent's problem was always like not having the best damage in the game. But if you had if you've got Fran next to him, if you were lucky enough to get Fran EX, then they are definitely a duo that you might want to consider. So that is going to be all for this week's Chaos Roundup. I hope that the advice that I've given you guys, or the links to other people's videos, or my own clears, have helped you in order to clear these events for yourselves and get all the juicy resources you can out of this week. Next week, we don't really know what's going to happen with Opera Omnia. We did get an in-game notice not too long ago to say that a pandemic may affect the order of things being released. We can hope, ironically, that Hope's banner should be coming around next week, but given that the Japanese version of the game had rerun older events so that we can then still be able to play the game, but perhaps with things that we may have missed, perhaps if we do get delays on these things, maybe we could hope for a rerun on Aranea or Emperor or Vayne or something like that, so that people who happen to miss out on some of these characters could come back. That being said, for all we know, on Monday we're going to get just a brand new month of new content, and everything will proceed as normal. There's no way for us to know right now, so conjecture is something that's very difficult to put forward. That being said, let me know in the comments below what you think might happen next week when it comes to Dissidia Opera Omnia, and what future content that you're looking for, as well as any teams that you may have brought along that were fun and cool that you brought along for either Fran Lost Chapter or for ExDeath's character event. And obviously, like I said at the beginning of the video, don't forget to check out all of my social media links, and of course don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for notifications. Thank you all once again for watching, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Take care, bye bye.